You know, I think today you guys have listened to quite a bit, a lot of information. And what we're trying to do, what we're going to be doing here at this particular instance, is to look at when we have strategized and we would like to be at a certain point in history. We feel that we are at the moment that we're in, yet we can envision a better world. You know, it's tantamount to, let me give you an example. I'm going to give you two specific spheres. One where you have a group of people who would like to present a building, put a building together. So what do? You get the best architects, your best engineers, and you're going to present a building that is going to be beyond the space, beyond the limitations of our time. Anti-seismic, you know, one that is environmental friendly, one that is even going with what is called a circular economy. In other words, parts of that building can be reused. And you can sit down, and if you envision that kind of world, you present the best possible building. And you can build that today, correct?
Yeah.
But what about if I tell you, I'm going to pick maybe somebody here that would like to be, let's say, we would like to have the best football team, and I mean soccer, but football internationally, right? Football where most of the world say football, because it's played with feet, right? So I say, who wants to be the, you know, you have a general manager, and you have a vision. You feel like, you know, we're going to put the right players in place, and we're going to produce the best team in the world. Now, you know, follow me with this. So we have our vision in one instance, which is structure. You know, you put a system in place, you put a building together, but now you have to deal with people. You have to deal with people's mindset. You know, one of the best players, he was having sex all last night, but he got to come in and play a game tomorrow. We have another player, his girlfriend was cheating on him, and he's got to be on the field, and he's got to perform. So I want you guys to play with me. I want you to understand what is happening in this world. So irrespective of our great vision, how do we go about, within the context of this evolutionary period, revolutionary period, how do we implement our vision? So anybody that wants to come and give responses, because this is not about us presenting our point of view and then you having to digest. It's about us, the comprehensive us. How do we fish through this process to get to understand what our real responsibilities are in the face of these social movements? Are we innocent bystanders pointing to the great future? What do we do? Anybody? What do we do? What are we to do? Do we pick the best coach in the world so he can put in, you know, the best players in the world, and then we're going to have the best team in the world? How do we get to that?
Self-education.
Self-education. That's the first step. Now, I'd like people to come join me where people can sit here, and I'd like us to at least begin a discussion about this. And we're going to discuss this as if nobody else is here, so that we can search for these answers. So that's one thing, right? Self-education. You know, if you notice in the presentation, we had people say, everybody needs to be educated. But who educates people in this system? Every system, every social system educates people to remain with their limitations. We are educated to be consumers on one end and to be fillers in the economic social order. So what do? We reproduce, we are reproducing the status quo. So the biggest problem that we have, we are challenged by education and alternative education. Status education and revolutionary education. Education of the limited time, the moment, the spirit of our time, and an education beyond. So those are the challenging things. But I do not want to have this conversation by myself. Certainly I want people here to come in and join me. Somebody here that wants to say, how do we move people here into real action? How does the Zeitgeist movement sees itself, and other people that are present here today, how do they see themselves in this world upheaval? Where do you see yourself? What's going on? How do you see yourself? Come in. Let's get somebody that's willing to sort of throw the anybody. Here's Tom. We're looking at one of the things that's been mentioned. You look at technology, and technology is a very big thing. For instance, the biggest social movement happens to be where? It's on the internet. Every day, millions of people are getting into the internet. But you know what happens? The whole African continent, very few people are on the internet. The whole Caribbean, when they get on the internet, it's in and out. So it's not a consistent internet. To really benefit from the internet, you really have to be on the internet for a while, because you have to be able to surf, you have to be able to search, you have to be able to do a bunch of things. What we're looking at, Tom, is while people are saying we have all this technology that can transform the world, but 2/3 of the population makes less than $2.50 per day. And most of them, which are producing what is called the second biggest economy, competing with China, as a matter of fact, is economy D. People that are non-integrated in the social economic systems, but they have to live. So they create their own economy. So this is what's happening. So in the face of all these great technological advances, we have a world where people are void of all these technological advances. And this is a real challenge. What do you say to that? I mean, you could say anything.
Well, it's about finding the solutions to these problems. Like, we need to get them access to the information they need, which should be a simple task.
Yeah, you could face them. Yeah, as we talk.
Well, like, give me a moment.
These people, mind you, are dealing with real issues. They're dealing with issues of for example, repressive social states. You know, they're dealing with issues of I'm not sure I'm going to get food every day. In the United States, there is 1% of the population that farms in sort of one of the richest quote-unquote countries in the world. In Haiti, for instance, 60% of the population is farming. But there are very good advantages to that for the people that have 60% of the population in farming if you have a collapse. And there are tremendously greater disadvantage for people that have 1% of people in farming if there is a collapse. So those are all the factors that you guys have to think about. But the real issue is, even when you're giving people information, they may not have what is called a critical understanding of what needs to be applied appropriately to even get them to go. But let's look at the Zeitgeist movement even here in the New York City chapter. We produce these little things, we do other things. How do we get involved and see this vision in its actuality? What I would call appropriate responses to those dramatic changes that are taking place.
Well, I think it has...
Yeah, you're good.
I think this has to do with, we all need to become our own leaders in this movement in a way. We need to be able to see a problem, see the solution that's under effect, and take action into it. And then even the people that don't have the correct mindset, like let's say I can find a way to take all the, let's do a coffee shop business in this 1%. Let's look at the waste of the coffee industry in New York, with all the coffee shops that have coffee, coffee.
Share the mic.
Oh, at the bottom. Okay, good.
They're literally 35 coffee shops can have 10,000 grains of spent coffee every week is coming out of these coffee shops, and they're just going into the garbage. You can take mushroom spawn from this, and you could just take the waste of this entire industry and turn it into food for the entire population. This is free stuff. Mushroom spawn can handle the entire process. It's extremely simple. So if you start taking these little steps as being the group that gets the coffee together, that then grows the mushroom, that now is supplying the food supply to the group of people, it'll raise awareness and also raise the like an integrity to keep pushing for these types of solutions so that we can all keep helping each other.
Just to, now, if you look at the mushrooms that, that Tom has presented, the mushroom has developed the intelligence. It has developed the adaptability. We don't have that. We have it in sort of miniatures, because it is a lot harder to get people who are, we go forward, we go backwards. Come in. We go forward, we go backwards. People that are affected directly because of their social, economic state, their social, psychological, cultural situation. And because, in other words, we're dealing with people's minds. What's
about education, I wanted to say that on the internet there's a website called Khan Academy.
Khan Academy, yes. Khan Academy.
Yeah. And they have about 6,000 videos on any subject that you can go to college for, and it's all for free. And they track your progress, they show you how well you're doing. It's even being integrated into schools right now. And at TED Talks, they said, you're looking at this as the future of education. There's also another website called Codec Academy that teaches you computer programming, and again, it's all for free. There's also a website called Udemy, where most of the programs are free, but you can also pay a small fee for about 66 lectures on the subject that you're interested in learning. So, and you notice that the internet is becoming freer everywhere. You go to a McDonald's or you go to a Starbucks, and you don't have to pay for that Wi-Fi. That Wi-Fi is there for free. And as the years come around, you'll start seeing
more and more
of this. So
now, hold on a second. You know, one thing that I mentioned in terms of the education that you talked about, which is very important, because education is accessibility to as many people as possible at the fastest rate as possible. But what we're talking about also, we're talking about education within the context of social movements. Not just education, but education. How do we interject social movements? What is our role in those social movements? Do we see ourselves as innocent stand-bys? You know, we'll take a look, you know, we have some good information, we'll do a good video, we'll do a good rap session, and how does that translate into action? What do we do? So all education is about, education has a very directional arena. It always goes in a very distinct area. It's the education that is intuitive. It is us, when we begin to educate ourselves, that we expand education from sort of the horizontal base grows bigger and the vertical stage goes higher. When we initiate education. But in the social order of things, education is, now even though, and I think Khan Academy is doing a tremendous job, because in fact, you're able to put any amount of students into a class, and you really don't need the teacher. The teacher can monitor, can check in, but the kids are discovering. And they're discovering a certain level of creativity. Now, for social movements, where is our creativity? For the individual, where is our creativity? To begin to say, we are in a period in history that requires that we apply our energies in very specific areas. For example, the presentation that Tom makes, again, I go back to it because the mushroom has developed an intellectual self-defense that most of us sometimes we don't have. Because we still don't have all the tools. And we are all, I mean all of us are, a work in progress. We're developing the attributes, we're developing that critical consciousness, but how do we translate that critical consciousness in action? Because in theory, you have one level. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry about that. I don't want to forget.
Sorry. I think one answer might be, there's a website called Open Source Ecology, where this guy went through school, he got a PhD in physics. And at the end of it, he said, all right, I still don't see myself being able to do anything or being productive at all. So he went and got a farm and started building his own materials because he saw that like tractors and
he bought a farm. I know this guy very well. As a matter of fact, on my block I have it. And this guy did a trip, but we have a limitation on time. But just for us to leave something behind, for us to sort of go with something in our hands. Everyone, when we go through a process in school, we go through a process that is called a theoretical understanding. All that we're seeing here has a lot of theory involved. We need to be practical in our application. We need to marry the intelligence of technology, the intelligence of technical intelligence with practical application. Because through practice, and only through practice, do we evaluate our theories. So those of us that sit idly by, it's not an option. We have to get involved. And through our mistakes, we will learn 100 more than what we've seen today. I thank you. Thank you.